Hello, and welcome to carbonwhy, the channel that's catered to those who are avid lifelong learners. My channel explores the how, what, where, why the world works the way it does. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button so that you can get notified of my next video. In this week's episode, we found out, can Parler survive without big tech? I'm sure you've heard of Parler by now, the free speech social media platform used mainly by conservatives. Whether you've heard about it through memes on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram, or you might be a Parler user yourself. The big question we all want to know is, can it survive without big tech? Parler's rise to popularity on Google and Apple app stores came about in the weeks surrounding the 2020 presidential election. Conservatives flocked to the platform due to Twitter and Facebook placing warnings on some of the former president's posts. John Madsey, founder and CEO of Parler, said that Twitter and Facebook's almost authoritarian steps to curate content is what drove people away from those mainstream platforms and towards Parler. Many people believe the two popular sites overstepped their bounds when they began adding fact-checking labels to Trump's post and eventually outright banning him from the sites. Parler prides itself as an alternative to Twitter and Facebook where users can enjoy the freedom of speech. John Madsey says that people flock to Parler because they don't want to be told what to think or say. They don't want to be guided or influenced by Big Brother in any way. But the platform's biggest pull also turned out to be its Achilles heel. All signs seem to indicate that the Capitol Hill riots were a coordinated assault that was organized online. Google and Apple suspended Parler service, saying the platform has not taken adequate measures to address the threats of violence and illegal activity. Then the platform went completely dark after losing access to Amazon Web Services, which provided cloud computing power to the platform. There are hints that Parler is making a comeback, but it remains to be seen whether the platform can survive without big tech infrastructure. John Madsey and Jared Thompson founded Parler in 2018. They described the platform as the town square, where people could freely express their political views without the fear of being removed, like it is on other social media platforms. Investigative journalist Diara Towns joined Parler in September 2020 and described the user experience on the platform similar to that of Twitter. The setup is very similar, with a newsfeed, trending topics, account recommendations, a discovery tab, the works. Since its inception, Parler has been largely backed by a series of conservative donors and investors like Rebecca Mercer and her father Robert Mercer, a hedge fund manager. Some other prominent donors include conservative talk show host Dan Bongino, Senator Rand Paul, and Trump's campaign manager Brad Parscale. Parler saw huge spikes in the number of users whenever conservative politicians like Jim Jordan, Ted Cruz, or Nikki Haley would advertise Parler on other platforms by offering their unfiltered views and opinions. Up until mid-2020, Parler had less than 1.5 million followers, but that number skyrocketed to around 15 million users, according to the company, before Amazon Web Services dropped Parler and essentially erased it from the internet. Parler tried to sue Amazon, but Amazon pushed back. A spokesperson from Amazon Web Services defended their case by stating that it was clear that Parler hosted significant content that encouraged and incited violence against others, and that Parler has either failed or are unable to identify and remove the content, which is a violation of the Terms of Service agreement. Amazon stated they had made their concerns known to Parler over a number of weeks, but only saw an increase in the dangerous content. Both Apple and Google have cited similar reasons for suspending Parler from their app stores. But despite its user base, Parler was not meant for just right-leaning conservatives. John Madsey tried desperately to change the platform and offered $20,000 in what he called a progressive bounty to try to attract liberals with large followings on Twitter and Facebook to open up Parler accounts. Madsey's attempts were not exactly successful. Liberals did make accounts and join the platform, but more to make fun of it. It was a joke. Liberals would take screenshots of the most ridiculous things being said on Parler, then post it to Twitter or Facebook as memes. Like many other social media platforms, Parler has found it increasingly difficult to weed out extremism and violence. But where mainstream platforms simply ban users from inappropriate or violent posts, these users don't just vanish. They turn to free speech platforms like Gab and Parler, where content moderation is very lax, which contributes to Parler being used by more radical and far-right people and even extremists. Parler does have some moderation policies though. In its community guidelines, Parler states that instances of unlawful, pornographic, copyright, and spam content will result in being banned from the platform. But Parler's approach to content moderation is much more lenient compared to Facebook or Twitter, who rely on thousands of content moderators and complicated AI. Matzi states that the company relies on around 600 paid and volunteer jurors who vote in small groups of 5 to determine whether a post crosses the line or not. So if 4 out of the 5 decide the post is in violation of the terms of service, then it gets removed. Parler lost many partnerships following the Capitol riots, some of which are Skilla Enterprise, a high-speed database. The company lost access to Stripe, so Parler could no longer process revenue from ads. They also lost American Express, Twilio, and Slack. Parler's website is now back up in a very limited capacity, but the app is still offline. The company's new domain provider, Epic, is known for hosting other social media free speech platforms like Gab, but Parler is still yet to find a website hosting provider. Parler's survival depends on the company finding someone to host its data and its app. In other words, big tech. Without Google, Apple, and Amazon Web Services, Parler is on a very slippery slope. Even Parler founder John Matzi acknowledged how important Amazon is to the platform's future. Parler filed a lawsuit that stated the company had to get back on Amazon, otherwise the damage of being off of Amazon Web Services would be far beyond financial. Parler cannot recover unless Amazon puts them back online. Matzi says that the first step to them recovering was trying to get back on the Amazon Web Services and seeking alternative sources to use. He says Parler clearing its name from the Capitol riots could help in finding other business to partner with again. Parler's ongoing lawsuit seems unlikely to succeed. On January 21, 2020, a judge refused to force Amazon to reinstate Parler, saying that Amazon Web Services was well within its rights to deny service to Parler for failing to remove content that violated the company's terms of service. Tech reporter Ari Levy says the lawsuit is really more of a last-ditch effort by Parler to throw shade at Amazon and reignite the view that once again big tech suppresses its conservative voices. Following the court's ruling, Parler said in a post on its website that the company developed an AI-based enforcement system for inappropriate content. It also said that no evidence of the Capitol riots being planned or coordinated on the platform were found. But without an outside web host, Parler's only real path forward would be to build and run its own servers, like what Gab has done. Gab was dropped from its hosting provider after a gunman in Pittsburgh, who had been posting anti-Semitic rhetoric on Gab for years, killed 11 people in a synagogue in 2018. But for Parler to build its own infrastructure is a tall order. Companies like Amazon Web Services, Google, and Microsoft have the capital to be able to invest tens of billions of dollars into creating the infrastructure they use. But Parler has nowhere near that capacity, especially with so many of its partnerships ending after the Capitol Hill riots. But some tech companies like Apple seem to not be entirely opposed to allowing Parler to use their infrastructure. Apple CEO Tim Cook said Parler needs to step up and solve their moderation issues in order to get back a place on the Apple Store. It's time we consider the bigger picture when it comes to social media and violence. Removing one platform won't mean an end to the types of conversations happening on Parler. There are still other platforms like Telegram, MeWe, and Gab where far-right conversations still occur. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and watch these videos that might pique your interest. Thank you for your support.